We've all seen the advice, right? Telling us how to be the perfect partner, be successful, be impeccably dressed, relentlessly positive.
Uh-huh. Always put together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what if the moment a man actually decides to commit to you,
Yeah.
on the moment he really chooses you as his life partner, what if it has absolutely nothing to do with your perfection?
Yeah, what if that profound sort of irreversible decision?
Yeah.
What if it's triggered when he is at his most flawed, his most vulnerable, maybe even his absolute worst?
Okay, let's really unpack this because we are diving into a deep analysis of relationship dynamics today
Uh-huh.
that completely flips the script on commitment.
It really does.
Our mission today is to, well, cut through the conventional dating wisdom and really analyze the hidden psychological, even neurological triggers that lead to that deep, lasting emotional anchoring in a man.
We've been immersed in some fascinating material that looks at the crucial difference between a man merely being in a relationship with you, which, let's be honest, is often just a convenient, low-effort status quo,
Right, it works for now.
and a man who consciously chooses you for his future. And that conscious choice, it seems to focus almost entirely on emotional security.
So this deep dive is really tailor-made for you, the listener, if you're looking to understand the mechanics of lasting partnership. We want to give you insight into that profound shift without falling into the traps of, overanalyzing, overcomplicating everything, or trying to manage the man you love. It's really about understanding a core human need for safety.
It is intensely counterintuitive. It goes against so much advice, but it seems profoundly effective if it's understood correctly.
Okay, so if understanding these complex human dynamics, this hidden psychology of commitment, is something you find fascinating, make sure you hit that like button right now and subscribe so you don't miss any of our future deep dives.
Definitely do that.
All right, let's start with the big misconception. Our reading materials kicked off with this anecdote, right? About a high-achieving woman, maybe in her 40s, smart, successful, beautiful,
Yeah, the whole package, seemingly.
but deeply frustrated. Because she believed, like so many of us do, that a man commits when the woman is just radiant, impeccable,
Yeah.
the perfect version of herself, projecting total confidence and zero problems.
Right. That's the default setting we've all been taught, isn't it? Project strength to be chosen. But the research we analyze suggests, well, pretty much the opposite is true. The real moment of choice happens in completely unexpected territory.
You mean it's the man's moment of greatest vulnerability.
That's what the sources point to.
So when his defenses are totally down, when he's feeling lost, confused, maybe facing a professional failure or some family chaos, that's the emotional battlefield where commitment is actually won or lost.
Precisely. When he's emotionally exposed, maybe more naked than he's ever been with anyone, his primitive brain seems to bypass all the usual filters. It activates a search for just one thing: authentic security.
Okay.
And in that fragile state, he's absolutely not assessing your career success or your social grace or your physique. I mean, those things might get you into a relationship,
Sure, the initial attraction.
but they apparently won't secure the long-term commitment.
So if he's not looking at those outward criteria, what's the core question his brain is silently processing about you?
The question is, well, infinitely deeper, and it potentially determines the course of his life. Can I exist imperfectly at your side without being judged, corrected, or rejected?
Wow.
That unconscious assessment, can he show up messy, flawed, confused, without the threat of your love being withdrawn, conditional love? That seems to be the switch, the thing that determines if you're his life partner or just a current companion.
Okay, that sets the stage perfectly for the crucial mistake that the material calls the instructive error. And it's so difficult because it seems to spring from the most loving impulse.
Exactly. It feels right.
When a woman sees the man she loves in pain, her natural instinct is rescue him, right? Fix the problem, step into the role of his therapist or even his mother.
And this is the tragedy of good intentions, really. This act, which feels incredibly loving and supportive on the surface, it actually backfires profoundly.
It backfires.
According to the psychological frameworks we looked at, yeah, this seems to be the exact moment many women unknowingly lose the opportunity for that real deep choice.
Why? Why does fixing backfire so dramatically? It feels so counterintuitive.
Because rescuing implies insufficiency. His brain registers something like, okay, if I show my pain, she tries to manage me or change me.
So it's conditional acceptance.
Exactly. Not unconditional safety. It sends a very subtle but powerful message. With this woman, I cannot be truly myself because my imperfect self, well, it requires fixing.
That distinction is everything, isn't it? Let's talk about the neurological basis for this. The material mentions the nucleus of emotional security. That sounds like some kind of internal warning system.
It basically is, think of the nucleus of emotional security as this primitive, deep-seated system in the masculine brain. It's constantly running a diagnostic check. And the only question it's asking is, can I lower my defenses here? Is it safe to be vulnerable in this place? If your immediate loving response to his pain is panic or giving advice or trying to manage his feelings, that system registers danger.
And the answer becomes no.
The answer becomes no, and the armor goes right back up, instantly.
So if fixing is the big mistake, the key differentiator must be something much more difficult, something the research calls presence without agenda.
Absolutely. This is the gold standard, apparently. The woman who provides presence without agenda is the one who can remain available, present in his confusion, his pain, his imperfection, without needing to change it or improve it or take responsibility for it.
She just holds the space.
She just holds the space.
Okay, but wait, I have to challenge this a little. Isn't there a risk here? Doesn't she just become, like, a trauma nurse? Where is the line between offering safety and maybe enabling emotional dependence or even just avoiding necessary conflict?
That's a really critical question. And the difference seems to lie in intention and energy. A trauma nurse, well, they take on the injury, right? They get involved in fixing it. Presence without agenda holds the container without adopting the chaos. It requires that emotional sovereignty we'll talk about later. But when a man experiences this profound realization that he can just exist without a mask, without performing, his nervous system finally exhales after maybe years of constant alert. And this addictive, deep relief that becomes the foundation of long-term emotional attachment. It's powerful stuff.
That freedom brings us to the actual mechanism of lasting partnership, what the material calls the anchoring protocol. This is where the positive shift happens.
Yeah, the anchoring protocol. It's basically a mechanism for long-term identification, you could say. It activates when a man discovers a partner who provides that consistent, non-judgmental safety.
Right.
She doesn't panic when he's down. She doesn't take his sadness personally, which is huge.
Oh, that's hard not to do.
Very hard. And she doesn't rush to intervene. When this happens, this neurological response seems to override simple desire or surface admiration. It establishes her as, like, the central point of his future, his safe harbor.
Our reading provided a genuinely moving example of this, what true presence looks like in action. And it wasn't about grand gestures at all. It was about stillness.
It was incredibly subtle, wasn't it? The anecdote describes a man who was deeply upset after a difficult, really emotionally charged phone call with his ex-wife about their kids.
Okay.
He didn't say much. He was just overwhelmed. And the woman who truly anchored him, she didn't engage in the content of the conversation. She didn't ask for details, didn't offer legal advice, didn't try to distract him with humor.
Would you see it?
She simply held him, just physically held him, being as firm and solid as a port in the storm. That's the phrase used.
Wow. It sounds incredibly difficult to do nothing, quote unquote, in that moment. That goes against every instinct to help, to solve, to ease his discomfort.
Every instinct.
But just by holding the space, she allowed him to fully process his own pain without any fear of shame or judgment.
Exactly. That capacity to hold the space without taking the chaos onto herself, that seems to be the essence of real, lasting choice. It demonstrates this unwavering stability.
Okay, now let's look at the flip side, the dark inverse of that positive outcome. What happens when that moment of vulnerability is rejected or maybe just handled incorrectly?
Well, that leads to what the material calls the fracture of the soul. It sounds dramatic, but it makes sense.
How does that happen?
If he shares a deep insecurity, maybe a fragile hope, and he hears a minimizing response like, don't be silly, you're fine, or if he's immediately corrected instead of just, accompanied in his confusion, his primitive brain registers rejection.
Okay.
He concludes, right, I have to keep acting here. I have to maintain the facade.
And this is where the relationship doesn't necessarily end, but the intimacy does. Is that the idea?
That's exactly it. It's the subtle damage that destroys the long-term potential. It creates this invisible crack, the fracture of the soul, where an essential, vulnerable part of him decides, maybe not even consciously, that she isn't the woman he wants to grow old with. The physical presence might remain, maybe even the affection on the surface, but an emotional distance installs itself, and deep mutual intimacy becomes, well, impossible.
This really highlights the great paradox of commitment then. The research suggests, quite strongly, That the more intensely you try to force or push a man to choose you,
Yeah, the grasping.
the more that choice just slips away, like trying to grab water with your hand.
Genuine choice requires absolute freedom. He has to feel that he has the freedom to leave, paradoxically, and that you will be entirely stable regardless of his decision.
That's huge.
That sense of not being needed to complete your life, but being chosen from your own emotional fullness, that's what triggers the profound response of, okay, this woman is my refuge.
This leads us straight to the concept of emotional sovereignty. It sounds like the absolute central pillar of being the chosen partner.
It really is. Emotional sovereignty means you are predictably stable in your own center, even when the person you love is chaotic or confused or, having a moment.
Right.
You are not responsible for his emotions. You are only responsible for your own reactions to them. And the woman who's chosen repeatedly, according to this material, isn't necessarily the most attractive or the most compliant. She's the one who is the calmest port in his storm.
And the material emphasizes that stability isn't just like a nice feeling. It has measurable neurological benefits. We see terms like cortisol and oxytocin popping up here.
Yeah, the science bit.
For listeners, just quickly, when we talk about cortisol, we're talking about the body's core stress response, right? The fight or flight stuff.
Absolutely. Cortisol is the stress hormone. It's what floods your system when you feel threatened or unsafe. Oxytocin, on the other hand, is often called the love hormone or the attachment hormone. And the data reveals that when a man finds a woman with true emotional sovereignty, his cortisol levels decrease dramatically. His brain starts to associate her very presence with profound well-being, with rest, with regeneration.
So her stability is literally calming him down physiologically. That involuntary sort of reparative response, that's way more powerful for long-term love than any initial physical attraction.
Precisely. His brain registers, this person is the source of my peace. And the research uses a really perfect metaphor to explain this stability, the storm metaphor.
Okay, let's dedicate some time to that.
Yeah.
How does the storm metaphor define the difference between, say, the immature and the mature partner in this context?
Well, the immature partner, seeing her man in an emotional storm, pain, confusion, doubt, she jumps into the storm with him.
Gets swept up.
Totally. She panics, she gets destabilized by his chaos, and she starts drowning alongside him. So now, instead of one person in distress, you've got two.
Not helpful.
Not helpful at all. The mature woman, however, becomes the refuge. She stands firm, solid, warm, available. She sees the storm, she acknowledges the storm, but she is not destabilized by it. And he chooses the refuge for building a future because he knows deep down she will be there, intact and available when he needs to enter and, crucially, exit his moments of chaos.
And critically, this whole dynamic, it has to be mutual, right? It's not just about him choosing her. She has to be choosing him authentically, too.
That's the final essential element. She must choose him from her own emotional abundance, her own fullness, not from a place of seeking completion or needing him to feel okay.
Right.
And this was illustrated really beautifully by that story of the 55-year-old woman in the research. Remember her, for 25 years, she had played the perfect wife, always compliant, avoiding conflict at all costs.
It's exhausting.
Totally exhausting. When she finally divorced and re-entered the dating world, she shed that role. She just decided to be her authentic self, curious, passionate, with strong opinions, good days, bad days, the real her.
And that authenticity, it changed the quality of the men she attracted.
Dramatically. She attracted a qualitatively different kind of man, someone ready for real deep connection, someone who chose her for who she really was. Messy bits and all, not for the exhausting facade she'd maintained for decades. Real commitment requires that radical authenticity from both sides.
Okay, that brings us beautifully to our synthesis. The core insight we've really uncovered today is that the true power in relationships lies not in achieving perfection, but in creating a safe space for imperfection. It's not about maintaining perpetual happiness, which is impossible anyway, but about being emotionally stable and predictably present.
Yeah.
We're seeing that true love is always a conscious, fearless choice. It's never a need driven by lack.
Yeah, it really is the discovery of a place where you can finally stop performing and just belong. Just be.
We've learned you really can't fake authentic confidence or that emotional sovereignty. It has to be cultivated from within. So here is our final provocative thought for you to carry forward. How much of your energy have you spent trying to be acceptable to others, instead of investing that same energy into becoming someone you genuinely choose to be, regardless of external validation? Because true commitment, it seems, can only really occur when you are fearless about being rejected for who you truly are.
Finding that inner safety first. That seems to be the most crucial step. Makes all the difference.
Absolutely. We would love to know what this looks like in your life. Let us know in the comments below, what does presence without agenda look like in your relationships? And honestly, how hard is it to actually execute that? We love reading your insights.
Yeah, share your thoughts.
And if you appreciated this deep dive into relationship psychology, please make sure you are subscribed and have those notifications turned on for our next analysis.